What's going down? Thor back. Base More Banter's the channel. Thor's Thoughts is the show. Let's get into it. Avengers Endgame. Well, this is an Infinity War pop, but you know what I'm saying. Avengers Endgame. It happened. I saw it on Thursday. Taping this on Saturday. I wanted to have a few days to kind of marinate on this film, and I wasn't going to put out a spoiler review really close to the thing coming out. I didn't want to spoil it for anybody. I saw a lot of channels do that. I put it up Friday morning, and that to me is kind of like you're walking a fine line there. It's a little bit. I'd almost wait till Saturday or Sunday. I'm waiting till Sunday. This should go up on Sunday. If you're watching this on a Sunday, great. If you're watching after that, thank you. But Avengers Endgame, what a beautiful culmination to the story that they've been painting for 11 years, really, since 2008's Iron Man. This tapestry that they've woven, that they've now finished, because this arc is finished. The Infinity War, or the Infinity Saga, is concluded. I mean, Endgame was a very satisfying, I won't say perfect, no movie is, but for a lot of people and for myself, I would say it was a very satisfying and a very just a very well done ending. I mean, I don't know how they pulled this off. Some of the stuff they pulled off in this movie shouldn't have been able to work, but it did. There were a lot of there were a lot of moments in this movie too that were predictable, that you saw coming kind of a mile away, but they didn't lessen the effect they had, nor your enjoyment of them. At least for me. Maybe for some of you it did, and leave that in the comment section below if it did. But I mean, right off the bat, when the movie starts and it's Hawkeye teaching his daughter how to shoot arrows, and his family's out for a picnic, and then they disappear. A lot of people saw that coming. I saw that coming, but it didn't lessen the effect of that. And then, Captain Marvel finding Tony in space because Tony and Nebula are about to run out of air. That didn't lessen that for me either. I still thoroughly enjoyed those aspects. And that's kind of like the opening of the movie. They get back. So the opening's that Hawkeye part. And then you do the Marvel Studios logo. And then it's Tony and them and the Tony and Nebula. They get brought back to Earth. There's Cap. There's everybody who's still kind of left. They want revenge. Or they don't want revenge. They want to avenge the fallen. I mean, they're the Avengers, not the Revengers. That's Thor Ragnarok. But they want to avenge the fallen, so they're going to go hunt Thanos down. Captain Marvel shows up, obviously, when she brings Tony back. And she doesn't, that line in the trailer, where's Nick Fury, isn't in there because they're looking at pictures of people who have fallen, and they show Scott Lang, they show Shuri, they show everybody, and they show Nick Fury. And then Captain Marvel sees that, and then she has an emotional reaction, or as much as Captain Marvel has an emotional reaction. So that was kind of nice. I like how they did that without having to do that. And then she's like, I'm going to go kill Thanos. And everyone's like, whoa, who are you? Like, you think you're just going to go, do this? And she's like, yeah, I can. I'm going to. I'm doing it now. And they're like, well, we tracked him using the rings a couple days ago to this planet. Nebula helps him. Thor's just pissed. That's when he's sitting with the hoodie looking like Eminem, about to drop the mixtape look. And he gets up, does the hammer thing. A lot of that trailer was the first 5 minutes of the film, which is, or maybe the first 10, 15, which is nice. So then they get in the jet, not the jet, because they get in rocket ship. And that's the funny part. Rocket's like, who's all been to space? And a bunch of them raise their hand, a bunch of them don't. And he's like, all right, if you haven't, don't throw up in here. It's my ship, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of funny moments in this movie, and they do it well, which is nice. So they go to where Thanos was, he's picking fruit and he's relaxing. And they show up and they pretty much detain him. And then he tells him that he destroyed the stones. The signature they caught of him using the stones 2 days ago is him using the stones to destroy the stones, if that makes any sense. So he's won, and there's nothing they can do about it. So Thor cuts his head off. And then he's like, I went for the head that time. And then it's pretty much anticlimactic. Then it's flash forwards to 5 years later. Well, Tony doesn't go on this mission. When they go to kill Thanos, Tony actually doesn't go, because when he gets back from outer space, he's really dilapidated and really emaciated and everything. He's just a skin and bones, and he goes off on Captain America, and he's like, where were you? It was a nice moment, and it kind of, it was a nice moment. That was kind of, you needed that kind of explosion right when they first got back together, so then you can have the more softer friendship rebuilding later in the film. But they go to Thanos. Thor cuts his head off. It's anticlimactic. Fast forward 5 years. They haven't done anything in 5. Not haven't done anything in 5 years, but you know, they think the stones are dead. There's no way to get them back. There's nothing they can do. So everyone tries to move on in the best way they know how. Pepper's still alive when Tony gets back in the beginning, which is nice. Cap starts a support group. Nat is running Avengers headquarters. War Machine's hunting Hawkeye, who just started killing everybody after his family disappeared, which was, he kind of snapped, which like, you could see that like an CIA black ops dude like that. His family just disappears out of nowhere. He reacts to it in a way that's probably not the most positive. And then you got Nebula and Rocket out in space, and then Captain Marvel out in space helping all the other planets who are suffering the same thing we're going through, but that don't have the Avengers to help. And that was another thing too, that War Machine, before they went and killed Thanos, he's like, where have you been? And she's like, there's a lot of other planets in this galaxy that need help, and they all don't have you guys. So he's like, fair point, you know? So it was really simple how they did a lot of that stuff. In this movie, how they explained a lot of things, but it was so effective yet simple that it worked. So Captain America's running a support group. Nat's running Avengers headquarters. Tony has a daughter and is living with Pepper out on like a lake in a cabin. But all of a sudden, this rat is climbing on Scott Lang's old van in a basement somewhere, like locked up in an impound, and turns the thing on. Scott Lang gets dumped out. Ant-Man pops back out, and he has no idea what's going on, because for him it's only been like 5 hours, and for the rest of them it had been 5 years since he got trapped in there once Pym and the Van Dykes disappeared and Hope and everybody disappeared. It had been 5 years from that point, but only 5 hours for him because time moves differently in the quantum realm. So again, a lot of people thought this was going to be time travel based on quantum realm stuff, and it was, but it wasn't any less effective. So they go to Tony. They're like, hey, we got this crazy plan for time travel. Tony's like, hey, I got a daughter. I got my second chance. I feel bad for everybody I lost. He still feels remorse for losing Peter, but he's like, hey, you know, I can't risk what I have now for a maybe, you know, until he actually figures out how to do time travel. And then he's like, he can't not do it. You know, he has a talk with Pepper, and they're like, go do it. In the meantime, they're still trying to find Captain America, Black Widow, and Ant-Man are trying to find a scientist to help them since Tony won't. And they find Professor Hulk. So Professor Hulk or Mr. Fix-It, he's kind of both. He's like an amalgamation character. Bruce Banner fuses Hulk in himself. So now he's fully himself, but looks like the Hulk. And then he's like dabbing and taking pictures and stuff. It was funny. Like I said, there were a lot of funny moments in this movie, but this movie definitely had like weight behind it. There were, I will say, moments that dragged slightly, maybe even a little bit more in this one than in Endgame. I think Endgame maybe moved a little bit quicker, but this one has a more satisfying conclusion, I would say. The snap is a pretty satisfying conclusion, but you know that's kind of open-ended, where this has a much tighter ending, but we'll get there. So yeah, my favorite part though is they all eventually, Tony figures out how to do time travel. Hulk's not making it happen. They get Thor back, and Thor is fat. They made Chris Hemsworth wear like a fat suit, and it was so awesome, because as being a Thor, and when you introduce yourself as Thor, people picture Chris Hemsworth in their mind, and I am not Chris Hemsworth. So having him fat was awesome. That was my favorite part of the movie. Him, Valkyrie are all on New Asgard, which is like New Zealand or somewhere. But Thor lives with Korg and Meeks in like a hut, and they just drink beer and hang out and play video games. At one point, he's playing Fortnite. Korg's playing Fortnite, and this mean like 12-year-old's back. So Thor gets on the mic and starts going at the 12-year-old. That was one of my favorite like comedy parts, I think, in this whole thing. Most of the best comedy stuff revolved around Thor and his weight problem. So they devised a plan to pretty much go back in time to different moments, pretty much throughout the history of this whole saga, when the stones are different places on Earth, or they know where they're located so they can steal them, then bring them back to their time. Now, doing this won't fix, like, you can't go back and like fix history. You know what I mean? Like, if you do something it's really cool how they explain you can't do something in the past and then fix the present, like in the future. So it just shatters the timeline. So I have to bring all the stones to their timeline, which is 5 years later, and then somehow snap to bring everybody back, but bring everyone back at that time. So everything is 5 years later, but for everybody else, no time had really passed because they had been gone. It's very cool how they did it because it sets up so much that they can do and so much time they have to fill in that 5 years, where you're not going back to that same moment. Like there's actual time has passed. So who knows what's happened? It's just a lot. And I'll get into that in like my final closing thoughts. But so they devise this plan. The different teams go to different places to steal stones from different times. There's like 3 stones in New York at one given time with Doctor Strange, the Scepter, and the Tesseract all during Avengers 1. So Tony, Ant-Man, and Hulk go to... Yeah, was it Hulk? It had to have been. Yeah, and Hulk go to get those 3 stones, which was kind of worked but didn't work. Because Loki ended up with a Tesseract and took off, which was like, whoops. So then Tony and them devised a plan to steal Tesseract from one of the old military bases and get Pym particles. Or was it Tony and Cap? It must have been Tony and Cap. And Ant-Man and Bruce, who went to New York. Either way, so they split off, and then Nebula goes to space to get the Power Stone. They go to like pretty much catch Star-Lord when he's about to get it. They go, like I said, they just go to different times to steal the stones and then bring them back to that time. But while they're doing that, Thanos of 2014 realizes what they're doing, because Nebula, when she goes back in time, she like interfaces with herself so they can spy and have all the memories of the Nebula from 2019 in 2014. So then they capture that Nebula, send their own Nebula back to kind of blow everything up. And then they get the stones back. And then Nebula brings 2014 Thanos to 2019 by using their quantum thing, blows up their time travel thing, their time travel paddle. And then you get to pretty much that last scene. Oh, in getting the stone, someone had to go to Boromir to get the Soul Stone. So they send Hawkeye and Nat, and Hawkeye and Black Widow have to fight for who gets to kill themselves to get the Soul Stone. Nat wins the battle. Nat kills herself. That's your opening salvo, and deaths is really Black Widow dying. And it was a pretty cool death. Like it was awesome how they did it, and like it meant a lot to her to be able to do that. And like she said, she kind of didn't have anything. So it was a fitting, it was a fitting end for Black Widow and a fitting end for Scarlett Johansson's character. Even though they have the Black Widow movie coming out, we can all assume that's going to be a prequel now and take place maybe before she's an Avenger. Hopefully. I don't really see how else they do this, but whatever. So she dies while they're getting the stones. But they get the stones, they get back, and then Thor is going to... Hulk goes to put the glove on to snap and wish everyone back because he can take it. He does it, but he gets badly burned and like badly destroyed. At that same time, that's when the fake Nebula brings Thanos from 2014 over to 2019. And then the most awesome thing my eyes have ever seen transpire. The final battle, it's like a good 45 minutes, hour, this last battle scene. But in the beginning, it's Thor, Cap, and Iron Man just fighting Thanos. And then all of a sudden, all these portals open up and all the fallen heroes come back. All the fallen people come back. Everyone shows up. Giant Man grows, and then literally it's Thanos' army. And all the children of Thanos are back because they're from 2014 too. Literally, Thanos just brought his army and all his people from 2014 to 2019 after they pretty much have already been destroyed, brought them back, and they had one giant battle with everybody. And it was just so cool. I mean, I remember sitting there thinking, this is what, when I was 5 to 37 years old, when I'm playing with action figures and in my mind, these giant battle scenes, or when you read comics and these giant scrolling battles on pages brought to life in such a way that, I mean, that for me was more emotional than I think any of the deaths, was just seeing the awesomeness of everybody fighting. All the women team up at one point for a battle part. There's Captain America picks up Thor's hammer and Thor's like, I knew it. Going back to Age of Ultron stuff when he moved it. So then Captain America's wielding Mjolnir. Thor has Stormbreaker. Then they have both at sometimes. It's so crazy, that last battle. It's the one thing I've been thinking about for 3 days. You know, the whole movie was great. And like I said, the culmination of everything was awesome. But that end battle was the best battle I have seen for a long time. For me, the best battle in the MCU was Avengers 1. Josh Whedon paints a beautiful picture as he goes to that battle, shot from shot, to different hero as they take out people and then like mix together and then break off. And it's beautifully, beautifully done. And it's just so well done. This topped it, but on a scale 1,000-fold. I mean, Civil War did a good job. There were other movies that did good jobs with battle scenes. Infinity War did, but it was a split battle. So you had two different battles going on concurrently, which kind of didn't, this was the battle to end all battles. I don't know where they go from here. I don't want to know. There was no end credit scene. There was no inclination of where they go from here. You got Spider-Man Far From Home, and then who knows? But the battle's just going crazy. They're beating Thanos. Captain Marvel shows back up and blasts Thanos' ship and then takes it down. I mean, there's just so much that happened in this battle. There were so many cool moments. I can't go beat for beat. I can't even remember them all, but it's just what the Russos did with that final battle was, I think, every nerd's dream. I mean, you can complain about not a lot of this movie. You can nitpick things if you want, and you can complain about whatever you choose to complain about. But I don't think I'll see anybody complaining about that end battle because it was done in the most magnificent way I think possible. Having Valkyrie ride in on her horse with wings and everybody just returning, the Guardians back, Spider-Man back, when Spider-Man activates instant kill and he's just taking people out and his eyes go red. There's just so many moments. There's so many callbacks. Iron Patriot shows up. Gwyneth Paltrow shows up in a suit of armor at the end battle. Everybody, every single person is battling for their life and for the future and for the past. But eventually Thanos gets the glove because the glove's kind of floating through. They made an Infinity Gauntlet, but it's like an Iron Man Infinity Gauntlet. It's made from like Iron Man suits. And Hulk wielded it first, but then it kind of floats through the battle scene. Well, Thanos ends up with it, and then Tony and him tussle. But Tony must have made something where his nanites took it off his glove and put it on Tony. And then Tony snaps. And then that's all Tony does. Tony just snapped, just like Thanos snapped. But instead of half of humanity wiping out, or half of, the universe wiping out, it was all Thanos and all of his men and armies and everything. And everything with Thanos. It was cool. It was very, very well done. So then Thanos just disappears. All his guys disappear. But Tony doesn't make it. Tony's mortally wounded from using the gauntlet, which is appropriate. He shouldn't have been able to wield that power. As awesome as Iron Man is and as powerful as he is no god. He's a man. And a man can't wield that kind of power. It's going to take a toll, and it took his life. Vision never came back. Loki never came back. There were some deaths that seemed to be final, which is nice that they did that. The Vision death, weird. I was shocked that the Vision death was final. I was absolutely shocked at that. That they didn't bring him back. But they have to return the stones to the moment in time in all those different timelines that they stole them from, or else time's pretty much going to fracture. So Tony dies. They have a nice funeral. They send Cap to bring the stones back. Well, they send Cap and he's supposed to come back, and he doesn't. All of a sudden there's some old dude sitting on a bench, and it's Cap. And he's like, hey, I got lost on my way. He didn't get lost on his way back. He's like, I had the moment I always wanted. He went and found Peggy. They had their dance. He lived his life with her. And then he was an old man, and he gave Sam the shield. So now Falcon's going to be your new Captain America. A lot of people want Bucky. A lot of people are kind of unhappy about that. I'd say that's the biggest complaint I've seen, is that Falcon got the shield and not Bucky. It's non-consequential to me because I don't think they're going to... It's not like you're going to have a Captain America movie in Phase 4. You're not. They'll be able to use Captain America however they want or not. if they want, depending on what stories they want to tell. And it'll probably just be more a cameo role. He's not going to, yeah, they're not, I mean, he's not going to have his own movie. Even if Sebastian Stan, even if Bucky took it over, you're not getting a standalone, I don't think, Captain America movie, because Chris Evans is done. I think they wrapped up that arc. And I don't think Captain America's going to be the leader anymore either. So it carries less weight than it would, but that was awesome. Thor decides he doesn't want to lead, so he gives New Asgard to Valkyrie, and he goes off with the Guardians, which is dope. So it's him and Star-Lord, and Gamora's not so Gamora dies in 2019, and they don't bring her back because the Gamora that comes back is actually the Gamora from 2014 that's still loyal to Thanos, kind of, sort of, and doesn't know Star-Lord and doesn't have that affection for him. So that's a whole nother thing that they can get into in Guardians, but they left a lot of things wide open. Hulk is still Professor Hulk or Mr. Fix-It or whatever you want to call him. Yeah, Captain Marvel's got a sweet haircut and looks like she's going to have a much heavier role. Black Panther's back, so Wakanda, Fantastic Four, X-Men, who knows? I mean, they could go anywhere they want to go. They did not they did not back themselves into any corner where they have to go in this direction or that direction. The door is wide open right now for anywhere they want to take it. And I cannot wait to see what they decide to do. I hope they kind of have little side stories for a little bit, for a few movies, just these little side ones. No real theme, no big bad lurking in the distance. Just these nice little tight-knit stories that they can kind of bridge one saga to the next. If you ever watch Dragon Ball Z, you ever watch anime, like they wrap up one saga, you don't jump right into the next saga. You have a couple filler episodes, right? You got a little filler story in there. It's still good story and it's still relevant, but it's not consequential to the beginning saga or the next saga, right? I think Spider-Man Far From Home will be somewhat like that. I think whatever they do announce next. I mean, they've literally announced 0 movies after Endgame. It's Endgame, or not, I mean, after Spider-Man Far From Home. So you got Endgame, Far From Home, and then who knows when we see a Marvel movie next. I would assume next May. I would assume early next year. We have to get, I don't know, Comic-Con's going to be interesting this year because they could come heavy. Or they could wait and do their own thing, or they could do the D23 thing. I mean, Marvel can do whatever Marvel wants to do. It's looking like it's going to make $1 billion worldwide. Projections are 350 to 360 million opening weekend. It deserves every penny it makes and more. A+. This is definitely one of my top 5 movies of all time. I don't know if that's just because it's the culmination of the story. So now the MCU Infinity Saga for me is like pretty much one of the best things ever. They did it, man. They did it. Enjoy it, everybody. Enjoy it. Just revel in this. Because December is probably not going to be like this. But revel in this. This is nice. Leave your thoughts below. Like, share, subscribe. You know what to do. You know where to do it. I'm Thor. Thor's Thoughts. Deuces. Till the next one.